Let's talk about the recent conviction of an accomplice of a transgender mass shooter, because I find the way that we talk about mass shootings to be entirely one-sided, and I think that it's worth some discussion. So in 2019, there was the STEM school shooting, the Highlands Ranch shooting in Colorado, where someone called Maya McKinney, who was a transgender person going under the name of Alec McKinney, female to male, was one of two Colorado students charged in the STEM school Highlands Ranch shooting in May 2019 and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole at 38 years. On that Friday. McKinney, who was juvenile at the time of the shooting, was sentenced as an adult because he was only 16 when this was done.
But when it got to sentencing, he's older? Or?
No, they just tried him, I guess we'll say, as an adult.
Gotta respect those pronouns.
Gotta respect those pronouns.
As the mass shooter.
Well, I mean, YouTube may well force it. You know what I mean? I'm just there. But this, this shooting, he killed one Kendrick Castillo, who was trying to rush him to try and disarm him, along with 8 other students being injured. Castillo was killed, obviously. So the students were acting heroically. Castillo's father obviously was not happy about this. You took something from me that can never be replaced. You've taken my purpose. I will never find peace. And his mother said, I will never forgive you. My only wish is to see you dead, burning in hell. So understandable reaction from the parents there. So the Deputy Attorney George Braukler said McKinney had shown remorse for his actions. Braukler is not sure whether McKinney would be sent to a women's or men's prison, but said the Department of Corrections usually makes accommodations to protect trans individuals. And currently McKinney is housed in a male wing of the Juvenile Correction Facility, but has his own cell to obviously protect him from his fellow men.
Yeah, I mean, we've come to this solution already in the UK. Americans are behind us on this.
Yeah.
But we've had men who identify as women sent to women's prisons who then raped the inmates.
Yeah.
Because what do you think was going to happen? So the solution to this ultimately is setting up transgender-only prisons.
Well, yeah, and I mean, they've essentially got to be in their own cells because, I mean, in this case, it's a female to male, so biologically, the inmates might not draw that distinction. They might not be very progressive, and they might not care about personal boundaries, and they might identify the biologically female components as being something they wish to target.
I also saw President Trump actually tweet out at the time, congratulations to the kids who tackled him and took him down. Because, I mean, brave.
Heroic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 40-something years is the time in which this person will get paroled. So in September 2019, a judge found that McKinney's alleged accomplice, a 19-year-old called Devin Erickson, could be prosecuted on 44 charges that include murder and attempted murder. And I think it was yesterday, Devin Erickson was convicted. So a former high school student who was charged with opening fire alongside a transgender accomplice on, quote, transphobic classmates at a Colorado charter school has been convicted on all 46 counts, including the murder. Erickson and McKinney shot one student dead and wounded others. But the thing is, they burst in on the class when they were watching like a movie, The Princess Bride, incidentally, which is a great movie, and just started shooting, which is awful. McKinney told the police while he was in custody that he targeted 3 students who bullied him for being transgender, but also wanted to make every student suffer like he had.
What? Sorry, you didn't suffer by being dead. Well, that's not what being trans is. So, I mean, killing kids to make them see what being trans is like?
Well,
what a reasoning.
Well, that's the point, actually, we'll get to after I've gone through this. So obviously people on the internet had things to say about this. Social justice crusaders on social media advocated to hashtag abolish prisons for McKinney's release, who was sentenced to life in prison. Leftists claimed that the oppressive society in a world designed to kill us had driven McKinney to violence, alleging that he doesn't deserve to be punished for his crimes because it wasn't his fault that he committed the acts. It's not your fault that you picked up a gun and started shooting students.
Was it the male side that did it and the female side didn't?
No, it's society. So wider society is responsible for this is the left-wing position, right? And it all stems from Rousseau, that we are born good and we are made corrupt by society, and therefore, obviously, they can just openly say, well, we live in an oppressive society that's somehow unwelcoming to trans people, even though after committing a mass shooting, we're still going to use the pronouns of their choice, and we're going to make sure that he is put in the correct prison that matches his gender identity.
Like, it's so oppressive.
This is so oppressive, yeah.
You could kill people and still have your pronouns used. Or in the case of, Stephanie White, the man who decided to sexually assault inmates after being convicted of being a danger to children and women for rape and so on and so forth. Still use the same pronouns for whatever he wanted in the Guardian article about that, because of course they do.
Yeah, and so we can see some of the examples on social media. These are most recent ones, I believe, but no, in fact, these are from 2020, so from last year when the conviction was first put out. But if we can just go to the next one,
which is the hashtag Free Alec McKinney, and then just loads of examples of leftists celebrating it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got, reminder that we have to hashtag Free Alec McKinney. He should not be in prison. It says Queer Anarch in the next one, so that's nice. Just on Twitter, it's fine. Real trans person here, really an abolitionist. Hashtag yes, Free Alec McKinney.
Abolitionist.
Prison abolitionist.
What?
Prison, this is all stemming from Foucault. Prison is a form of legitimized oppression.
Because it is.
Yeah, deliberately so.
But why would you say it wasn't?
Well, no, we wouldn't characterize it as oppression because oppression implies injustice. Right.
Hang on, if I kill 3 kids, what should I get then under Foucault's world?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm not going to go into now because I haven't actually read Foucault yet.
Yeah.
I just read around him, and I'm aware of what his opinion on this was. But I will get to it at some point. But it doesn't matter because Foucault was a goddamn pedo who wanted to abolish the age of consent as well, because any kind of structuralism is oppression in this worldview.
That is the left's worldview.
That is the left's worldview. Well, again, it all stems from the idea that man was born innately good, and it is society, all the structures around us that make us evil, which is obviously not true. Men are born awful, and without good conditioning and habituation, will turn into absolute monsters.
God. When was he born? What year?
Who, Foucault?
Yeah.
Oh, it would have been. Well, I mean, he was most active in the 70s and 80s, I think.
So, okay, so it's long after the age of imperialism and all that. Right?
Oh yeah.
Because I would have taken him to
Yeah. But it's obviously French theorists.
Yeah.
Just don't bother with
Just
it.
take them to the undiscovered world. Look how good these guys are. Now hang out with them. Enjoy being eaten. Bye bye.
Well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, anyway. So go to the next one. Hashtag Free Alec McKinney. Cope transphobes. I like the response. Haha, justice system go burr.
Palestinian flag.
Yeah, Palestinian flag, exactly. These people are mad, basically. But
what's weird, you never see this kind of... I know there's right-wing cringe, but you never see so much cringe like this from people with British flags or American flags and hashtag God guns and all that stuff. I don't see the same kind of thing where they're like, yeah, I endorse mass murder.
Well, that's because they don't endorse mass murder. Just to be clear there, I think. And not only that, they endorse the idea of structures. They believe that there should be prisons for mass murderers. Whereas if you think that prisons themselves are a form of legalized oppression, then you end up on this particular perspective. And just to be clear, I don't think we should call prisons as a form of oppression, because again, oppression implies injustice, as in it's not just for the person to go to prison, but it is just. And so we don't call it oppression, because oppression is not fair. What was the last thing you had on the end here, by the way?
So this is just someone responding with exactly the point we made earlier.
Yeah.
Imagine thinking you have to respect the pronouns of a school shooter. Yes, you do, apparently. As we also saw with the rapist threat to children person, Stephanie White. You also have to respect her pronouns in the articles about her. Because you couldn't dare point out that, no, this person doesn't reserve any respect whatsoever. I mean, quite frankly, we use what terms do you use to describe paedophile, rapists, mass shooters? I mean, it's like scum.
Not very pleasant ones. You're right. Yeah.
Endless list of profanity, but pronouns you got to use the right one. I just can't get over it. Wood chipping. So I mean, that's one way of putting it. But it's the thing. I just don't understand. I just don't understand this point, which is even the worst people in society, in which the left, at least publicly, will say they're also the worst people. I don't know, private thoughts.
Will they? I mean, there were people...
Look, we'll CC Bosch another time, but...
okay.
So, they mass shooters, blah, 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 all bad, and yet, but did you use the right pronouns? Like, why does that rule still get applied to? I mean, in the media, you see the people using he and she.
Because
the goddamn worst person on the planet.
This rule is established before any interaction with the real world, right? And so this is a sort of a priori moral rule that has to exist. And if we don't respect it in all places and all times, then the entire thing becomes undone. We can't start finding contingent, like, real world reasons in the left wing view to undermine that particular rule, because then the rule becomes invalid. Why couldn't I do it in any other circumstance? And of course, if you're trying to impose this new moral order on the world...
So because we need that rule, therefore the ISIS fighter who's crucifying children, he's... he, she, or whatever the heck it is.
Take, for example, like, we have a rule before we do anything else that we shouldn't torture. Right? Torture is a moral wrong. Right? And so if we... Yeah, but we're not going to apply that to ISIS fights. So we should be able to torture ISIS. No, we shouldn't. Right? Because the act of torture in and of itself is bad, no matter who you're torturing. Right, and this is the way they look at it, as if we're doing the same thing but with pronouns. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.